Hey guys, I'm going to be talking about the Henson razor in this video. It's not really going to be a shave video. It'll just be a talk about the angle of the blade specifically and my general feelings about the Henson. I first of all want to say positive things, and there's not really anything negative about it. It's just an attribute about it that it makes me not really find it as enjoyable as other razors like this Fatip, um, or actually a lot of my razors. And I think it comes down to the fact that the blade angle where it meets your skin is actually greater than many other razors, even though the angle here that is made and shown by the handle when you put this flat plane up against, my skin here, for instance, is actually kind of small. We'll go into that a little bit more later. But in terms of the craftsmanship of the razor, it looks really good. And I've mentioned this on the shaves where I've used the razor, and I really like the handle look as well as the design. The way it tapers gives you a really good feel. It's not going to slip out of your hand even if your hands get soapy. The craftsmanship, the CNC machining or whatever machining process they use for the aluminum here is terrific. There's no excessively sharp edges. You could maybe cut yourself with a corner there, but you'd really have to work hard at it. And so everything's been rounded off nicely where it needs to be. It does put a good bit of torque on the edge of the blade. As you can see, it's kind of a low flat head design, so the blade is fairly flat in the middle part, but then when it gets toward the edge, it gets torqued down. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't wanted to put my old Nasset blade with 500 uses on it. I haven't wanted to put that in this razor because of the tweak that it adds to the edge of the blade, just in case it might damage it. But with your average person using a blade 5, 15, 30 times, shouldn't be a problem at all. The comfort level, this is the medium, this is the plus plus. It doesn't say AL13 or anything on it, and so maybe it came out prior to the AL13, which currently is what Henson has on their site. Another thing I like about Henson as a company, I don't know anything about the owner or anything like that. I do know that they have a very marketing focused type company. A lot of razor companies don't focus on kind of the equipment and stuff, but they are definitely putting themselves out there with Facebook ads and even I think maybe TV ads or something like that. Something. But I like the fact that they're charging, I think it was about $65, $68 for this machined bit of aluminum, and I think that's a fair price for what you get. It's a quality piece, lasts a lifetime, and I think that's a reasonable price for it. Precision made, obviously we're dealing with razor blades here, and so the precision needs to be high. I've got a Gillette Platinum in there just as a test blade. And so I wanted to show you the base plate. Mine just says plus plus over here, and then it has a lot number over here, lot 10. And so I don't know exactly where that puts it in terms of AL13 or if it even has any kind of designation. But I don't think it really differs too far from the current version. I liked the fact that the company, in selling the peripheral products, like a pack of 100 blades, they were at a reasonable price. You go over to like Viking's Blade, and they are trying to sell you 250 packs for, I think, 6 times the cost, 4 times the cost. And it's probably just a Chinese blade that people wouldn't normally pay that much for. But they're kind of taking advantage of ignorant people. And I don't mean ignorant in a negative sense. I mean just people who don't know information. People don't know that you can get, they think that those blades might be specifically designed for the Vikings blade razors and that sort of thing. But over on Henson, it's a reasonable price for 100 blades. It's actually pretty inexpensive. And so I think that's terrific of them. I feel better a lot. I feel better about that in terms of how they're presenting themselves to the customer. And so this is the plus plus, and I think that means it's a medium. I find it very comfortable shaved with. It would be difficult for me to give myself irritation. I could cut myself, obviously, if I made an errant move like that, as with pretty much all safety razors. But if you had the wrong handle angle, you just weren't really going to be able to shave yourself. And that's what kind of makes it a razor on training wheels, because it's going to be hard to give yourself irritation, even with the medium. And then as you're shaving, if you don't get the angle right, nothing happens. No irritation happens, but of course no hair cutting happens. But that's okay, because you can learn. And I learned after several shaves. Matter of fact, it was just a couple of shaves in where it was very natural for me to find the right angle. A little harder in the concave areas of your face, such as your neck. Over here, we've got flat areas on the cheek, convex areas on the chin line here, the jawline. And so those you're going to be able to find the angle pretty easily. A little harder if you're shaving this way on the neck, but you do get it. And then I found that I was able to shave cross grain and even slightly with a slight against the grain twist. I can't go full on against the grain with this, but that's okay, because that's also a rule, something that happens with me with other razors as well, almost across the board. So I wouldn't expect it to shave against the grain for me. I was able to successfully shave off a week's worth of growth with this razor easily. The first pass did not take off as much growth as another razor might, because of the whole plane here. It keeps the exposure quite low, but the second pass picked up more of the slack, and by the third pass, everything was great, and I ended up with a wonderful smooth face. So then let's talk about the razor angle. By choosing this design and this flat-headed face here, this plane, they are locking a person into a certain handle angle. And I think that in a way it's almost a marketing thing, because the handle angle doesn't really matter. And I think that's the secret here. With razors like this one and razors like the vintage Gillette Tech here, see, they have similar head designs in terms of the way you have a top plate, and then you have the safety bar sticking out, and your blade is going to be between the two. And obviously this is a very different head design with the way it works. And so that's why before the Henson came out, we've generally been able to say to people, use a 30-degree angle is about right. But anybody who knows anything is also going to caveat that with, that's a good angle to start with, but feel free to experiment, because you may prefer something more brought in, which would be a larger blade angle. Some people ride the cap to get a better shave that they like, and that's a smaller blade angle, greater, as you can see, handle angle. And so there's some variation there. Well, there's no variation with the Henson, because then the blade doesn't touch your skin. But we say 30 degrees because that's really a good starting point, you know. And often I find that opening up a little bit more like a 40 or 45 degree, is where these kind of things, where I enjoy them as well. And so that's a little bit of a trick here with the Henson, because since these have similar head shapes, that 30-degree handle angle means something. But when you bring in the Henson, the fact that the handle might be at 30 degrees or something like that, it doesn't mean anything, because the head design is so different. It takes the blade and bends it more when the blade gets near the edge there. And so that's why, even though the angle looks about right, there, it is actually where the blade touches your skin is actually, to me, looks more like a 40-degree angle. And the reason I'm making this video and the reason I thought about this and I'm bringing it to you is because as I shaved several times with the Henson, I thought, why am I not enjoying the cut as much as with other razors, including these? What could it be? Because the support underneath the edge here, the base plate here does come fairly close to the edge of the blade. There are other razors that do it better, but it's definitely better than something like a DE89 or something like that. The Mercurs and the Parkers and those kind of things is definitely better than those. So it can't, probably not the grip of the blade, of the razor on the blade. And then I thought, well, is it the blade angle? Because all the effective angles that matter is in this tiny little area right here where it's touching your skin. What angle is the blade at that point? And so I looked at it and thought about it. And this is kind of what I came up with. This is the way it seems to me. So I made some drawings on my little chalkboard. They're rudimentary, but hopefully they get the point across. The Henson is obviously up here. The Fatip example is right here. With we'll start with kind of the classic design, and this kind of applies to the vintage tech as well. You've got the top cap is very low profile. We obviously know the Henson top cap has a good bulge on it. But the top cap is low profile. The safety bar sticks out more. And so that little imaginary, that line where, here I've got a spoon I can use. That line here, if we draw a line between, that would be what's touching your face, this would be your face. If the safety bar down at the bottom and the top cap were to touch the face, then that is where the angle of the line, right? If we switch over to the Henson, of course, and this of course is not a to scale drawing here, but the angle is steeper, which means your handle is closer to the face in general. But what's happening here is if you then take the angle of your skin here and you make that vertical and then you line everything up, then what angle is the blade? That's the crucial part of this statement, information, argument, whatever here. Okay, if you do the same with the Henson, which side did I? Yeah, see, I've got a tiny little bit that's sticking out right there. That's the blade, because the Henson doesn't have a lot of exposure. Okay, and so then if this is my skin, and if that's vertical, I don't want to pay attention. I don't care what the handle angle is, because that can always change. I can adapt to whatever the razor needs to be. What's important is what angle is the razor blade when it comes in contact with the skin. And we know that the head shape here locks you into a certain angle. And so let's take a look at that in actuality. If I simply take the Henson razor, I'm going to have to load the blade back in it just so I can watch them. Just first, we will compare the handle angle between the two. If that skin line, that spoon handle I was showing you, if that is vertical, then what do the two razors look like? Need to get some bifocals someday. The Henson here is easy to do. And then this one is more like this. So I don't know if you can tell or not, but this is more like a 30-degree angle, and this is closer to a 45. Now the middle line here, they're both straight up and down. Okay, now that doesn't matter as much. That's just for your information. Okay, but as I then look, as I take that information, and as I hold this razor up to a vertical line here, and I look at the blade itself, the first 4 millimeters or something like that, that angle where it's going to touch your skin, then actually it looks more like a 40 or a 45 degree angle. If I take the fatigues, I do the same thing. The handle angle is more open, of course, but we talked about how that doesn't really matter too much. Okay, the blade angle is much smaller, noticeably smaller. This is more like those last few millimeters of blade edge where it's going to be touching your skin. That is more like 30 millimeters, 30 degrees. Okay, and so I think that is the whole difference as to how the Henson feels different. I will swap out, I'll take the Tech and we'll do a similar comparison with the Tech. And I'm going to pause you while I swap the blade out. Okay, that sample blade is now in the Tech. This is a common, this is the fat handle Tech. And this particular one has the triangle slots. So we know that is a pre-war Tech. But it doesn't really matter too much for this illustration. Okay, I'm going to put the top cap in contact with the quote-unquote skin. Bring it down until the safety bar kind of touches. It does have positive exposure, but if I make it so that the line is also the line between the top cap and the safety bar, and if I make it so it's parallel with the skin line here, then I can very easily tell that it is more like the fatigues than the Henson, and it's more like a 30 degree angle here with the blade. Okay, and so if you're taking a balanced approach of equal pressure in the fatigues and the Tech razor here, a balanced approach where the safety bar is touching your skin as much as the top cap, then these two razors present a lower blade angle than the Henson does to my eyes. It seems pretty obvious, but I think that's why then. So now we have a razor blade that's cutting the skin. Here's the Henson, and then the fatigues and the Tech are a smaller angle. And so what does that mean? I think that is why the feel is different on the two razors, why I can get a smoother shave. I believe this fatigues razor has actually more exposure than the Henson. But because of its blade angle, because it has a smaller blade angle in relation to the skin, not in relation to the handle or anything like that, because that doesn't matter. In relation to the skin, the blade on these types of razors is a smaller angle, and therefore the blade is behind the force of the edge, and so adds stability and smoothness. And of course we know that if you have got a hoe and you've got it at 90 degrees and you're pulling it across the earth, then it's going to be kind of rough and jaggedy. And the more you get the hoe angle to flat, then the easier it moves through the earth. And I think that's why the Henson, it gives me that same, it doesn't quite give me that same smoothness that these other razors can provide. And so I think I finally figured out the little puzzle that was going through my head as I was using the Henson. I'll remind you that I enjoyed my Henson shaves. If it was the only razor I had, I would be happy in my shaves. But when you start to compare them to other razors, that's when you start noticing differences. And for me, that smoothness is what makes the shave just a sublime type experience. And so I chase after that. If you like a little bit less smoothness to your shave, then that's you, and you can do that. That's no problem at all. So there we go. I hope that I explained it in a clear way. And if you have any questions, just leave the comments there. If the Henson did not have as close of a grip on the edge of the blade, I think we would see a lot more vocal audio, a nature to it, to the experience of using the Henson. But because of that good clamping, it masks that a little bit. But it still has that blade angle that is different. And so I'm going to shave in a few minutes with the Henson. Again, I'm going to put one of my favorite blades in there. I believe what I've got in there is the I'll put in the Gillette Nasset in there. Haven't used that. I've used several popular blades with the Henson so far. Haven't used the Nasset yet. So there we go. One question might be, do you still believe that this is a good razor for beginners? Yeah, I think so. I think so. Because, like what I told you before, if you don't get the angle right, you're not going to cut your hair. And so it's a safe razor to use in relation to some of the others. However, I don't really find either of these, and in my own personal experience as a new shaver, I didn't find either of these razors difficult to use. And so for me, the fact that I was able to get to a smooth feeling shave with those razors, to me that means that I would not have wanted to have bought the Henson as a beginner, even though it offers some benefits. The benefits of the smoothness and the fact that it doesn't really take too much extra learning to get the angle right with some of the others that we've had around for a while. And that includes the DE89s and things like that. Now, if you specifically need a certain kind of razor and you find the Henson matches your skin type, then hey, that's the way it goes. That's right. But I don't know. See, now, and that raises a very good question. If you do have sensitive skin with the Henson, even the mild version, would it be something to look at? Because if you've got sensitive skin and the blade angle is still steeper than these other razors, I might guess that the other razors, when used properly, would be kinder to sensitive skin. A sharper blade angle, like the Henson has, it by nature seems like it's not as good of an idea for sensitive skin, even if the blade exposure is quite low. So that's I don't have sensitive skin, so I can't really weigh in on that. I have average skin. So there we go. That is the info as I've kind of been able to figure it out. The opposite of the Henson is a Gibbs type razor like this Pearl Flexi that is designed to it has very long, relatively speaking, safety bar, sticks out a lot more. And so the blade angle is designed, it can be really quite small. And that's one of the secrets to why the Gibbs is such a smooth shaver. The Flexi is not quite as smooth as the Gibbs, but it's still a good shaver. So some critical questions. Would I recommend the Henson for a beginner because of its benefits? No, not really. Not anymore. Then I would say it's a good razor. And if you like the look of it, that sort of thing, and you just have a pull toward it, you're not going to be happy unless you have it because of some marketing thing, then go ahead and get it. But I would recommend some of these others. Actually, I like both of these. Maybe the closed comb Fatigues instead of the open comb, but the open comb is still nice. And then the Tech, of course, is always a great buy for just about any level shaver. So no, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it above the other razors, especially for the cost. See, that's one of the disadvantages to the Henson. Somebody who is thinking about getting into this kind of shaving can pick up a Tech for just a few dollars on eBay and use it, figure out if they like this kind of shaving. If they don't, then they're just out a few dollars. Matter of fact, if they jumped on eBay, they could probably sell it for exactly what they bought it for, you know. And with the Henson, that's very different. Now, you will be able to sell the Henson on the used market, most likely, but it represents a larger investment up front when you don't know if you're going to stick with it. Second question related to that, do I wish that someone, this would have been my first razor, and as you could probably guess, I would say no. Because of the shave. I just enjoy this even more smooth is the other razor, are the other razors such as these. And so I'm glad I was able to start with those first. And the DE89s and other type of razors that I had. So I believe that's about all the information that I've got for you for now on the Henson. Any updates, I'll stick them down in the description. And hopefully that gives people good information on for buying them. If you don't have one, now you know a little bit more about it. And of course, as always, this is just how I see it. This is what I've experienced with this razor in several shaves, several different blades. It is my perspective and not objective fact. And I was able to try several blades with this, several popular blades, and it handled every blade very nicely. So it's got that going for it. It's not picky. Doesn't seem to be picky about blades. So that's a positive there. Make sure I share that. Take care. Thank you so much. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Have a good day.